What's going on, everybody? I am back with another deck tech. Today I'm going to talk about my Gruul commander, Omnath, Locus of Rage. So Omnath, Locus of Rage is basically a landfall commander. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, we're going to put a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. And then whenever Omnath, Locus of Rage, or another elemental we control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So what we're going to try to do in this deck is we're going to try to get Omnath out as fast as we can, get as many lands into play as we can so we can get those triggers going, and then start attacking people with 5/5s, or just sacrificing our own 5/5s to deal 3 to people's faces. That's basically it. That's how you're going to win. Pretty straightforward, as Gruul tends to be. So let's get into it. Alright, so first we'll go over the land package we got here. Got 13 mountains. It's going to run a lot of lands, obviously, because we are a landfall deck, so... Got 14 forests, and I'm running a couple of cycling deserts in here. I got Desert of the Fervent, as well as Desert of the Indomitable. So being able to cycle these, yeah, they do enter the battlefield tapped, but typically we're cycling these because we have ways of getting them out of our graveyard and recurring them. So cycling to be able to draw a card is usually what we end up doing with these. They're just in there, one of each color. Next we have some of our dual lands, so we're running Spire Garden, Cinderglade, Stomping Ground, and then the rest of our land package are going to be, lands that we can basically get into our graveyard to be able to recur. So we are running quite a few. I think we're running like 4 fetch lands. But we've got Evolving Wilds, Windswept Heath, Wooded Foothills, Bloodstained Mire, and Fabled Passage. Next we got Hanaware Battlements. This is good because it can give your creatures haste until end of turn. And then, yeah, just taps for a colorless. So just a good utility land, haste if we need it. Bonder's Enclave. Just a way to be able to draw cards if we need it. If we control a creature 4 or greater, which we're always gonna control a creature 4 or greater. Beseiju. It's in here basically just so we can pay the life and make something uncounterable if we need to. There are some spells that we're running in here that we really don't want to get countered. So Blighted Woodland, just a good sack outlet. Being able to search your library for 2 basic lands and put them on the battlefield tap will give you 2 triggers to be able to sack this and then get this back out of the graveyard with Crucible of Worlds or something. But this is really strong in this deck. Field of Ruin, just being able to destroy some of our opponent's lands and then being able to bring this back. Pretty good in the deck. Lightning Greaves as well as Swiftfoot Boots, because Omnath does tend to get removed quite a bit, and he does cost 7 mana. So even though we ramp so hard in this deck, as you'll see, that usually I can usually cast him 4 or 5 times in a game, but you definitely want to get him some protection if you can. So we're running both of them. Explorer Scope, just a great card. To be able to, whenever a creature attacks, we look at the top card of our library. If it's a land, we're going to put it on the battlefield. That's just going to trigger Omnath. So pretty good at a casting cost of 1 and equip for 1. Not as good as the next card, but it's good. The next one is Sword of the Animist. Even better, gives a +1/+1. Yeah, it's a little more expensive. It costs 2 to put down, 2 to equip, but it's going to guarantee to get us a land when we attack. So it's really good. A few more artifacts here. We got obviously We're landfall deck, so Crucible of Worlds is just an auto include. It's almost got to go in there to be able to play those cards. Those lands that we put in the graveyard, we want to be able to get them back out. So definitely running a Crucible. Ashnod's Altar is just in there as a way to be able to sacrifice a creature for 0, and you can add 2 to your mana pool. But it's really just, we don't even need the mana really in this deck. It's just there to give us a sack outlet and yeah, a safety valve or an eject button, if you want to call it that, in case someone goes to target or steal Omnath or something. We can just start blowing up our elementals and just taking someone out, dealing them 3 damage each time we do it. So onto our enchantments now. So obviously, since we're making tokens, we definitely have a doubling season in there, because what's better than 1 token? 2 tokens. Greater Good, just another sacrifice outlet to be able to draw cards and then dome people for 3 for each elemental we sacrifice. I know I'm sure I'll get a lot of hate for this if anybody watches these, but yes, I am running Blood Moon. Yes, I am that player. Don't like it. I mean, float the mana while it's on the stack. I don't know what to tell you. Blood Moon, it's a great card. Frontier Siege, just being able to add 2 to our mana pool at the beginning of every upkeep is pretty good. Or, you know, having it be able to fight. Both are relevant in this deck, so it's a good card in here. Zendikar's Royal, one of the best cards in the deck, because whenever we put a land into play, we get a 2/2 elemental, right? It's a 2/2. It's not a 5/5 that Omnath makes, but remember, anytime an elemental dies, we get to ping somebody or something for 3, whatever target we want. So this can get out of control very, very fastly in this deck, as much land as you're putting in play. It usually gets removed fairly quickly, though. If anybody's played against this deck, they know that if Zendikar's Royal comes down, you got to get rid of it pretty quickly. It'll spiral out of control fast. Rhythm of the Wild, great in any Gruul deck that's playing creatures, and let's be honest, which Gruul deck isn't playing creatures? That's what it's all about. So just being able to have our creature spells not be able to be countered, and then non-token creatures have Riot. Yes, we are playing mostly a lot of tokens in here. We don't really even care about that part. We just care about the part that says creature spells can't be countered. Perfect. Elemental Bond, same thing here. Whenever a creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield, we're going to draw a card. Now, I will warn you, if you ever do run this card in a token deck, especially big tokens, you have to be careful, because I have decked myself and lost games due to this card. Because I've dumped so many lands into play on one turn. You know, you dump 10 lands into play or something, next thing you know, you end up decking yourself, because it can just spiral out of control, and you can end up actually hurting yourself with this. But other than that, you just got to be a little careful what you're doing, but great card. Evolutionary Leap, just another sack outlet, being able to sack a token, hit somebody for 3, and then go get a creature and put it in our hand. Absolutely great. Fiery Emancipation. I mean, what's better than double damage, triple damage? I mean, so, you know, if this thing hits the board and we've even got, you know, 5 tokens, it's going to get real bad, because that 3 damage is now going to turn into 9 damage. Yeah, card's absolutely insane. Constant Miss, probably a card I don't see running a lot of landfall decks, but if you got a landfall deck, you might want to give it a look. So being able to have that buyback effect of sacrificing a land, so the fact that we can fog if somebody wants to attack us, and then, you know, basically buy it back by sacrificing a land. If you have plenty of ways to get the lands back out of your graveyard, this basically becomes you know, and I can fog every turn type thing. So that's some of the instances there. Let's get into a few more of them. We got Valakut's Awakening. It's just there basically for card draw, in case we get into a situation where, you know, we've got a bunch of stuff we don't need or no ramp or whatever it is. It's just a way to get rid of our hand and take a look at some new cards. Crop Rotation, great card in the deck. Usually what I'll end up doing with this is just sacrificing a land with Crop Rotation, and 99 out of 100 times I'm going to go get Beseiju, just so I can protect something that I'm trying to do, some other spell I'm trying to play. Reclaim, just being able to get something back and put it on top of our library, great card. We are running a ton of ramp in this deck. Some are instants, some are sorceries, but one of them is rolling Regrowth. This is a really good one. It's kind of a one of in there. In my opinion, it's probably one of the best threaten effects in Commander. But the fact that it has 2 modes on here and just being able to choose one, because you rarely need to get all the creatures. You usually just need to get one or the other. But being able to gain control of all creatures with power 4 or greater, or all creatures with 3 or greater until the end of turn, it's pretty good. Especially if you got an Ashnod's Altar or something, you're going to take those creatures, you gain haste, you're going to swing out, smash somebody, smash a couple people if you want, whatever, and then just sack them at the end of the turn so they lose all their creatures. It's a card's a blowout. Every time you play it, it's a blowout. Sylvan Awakening, another kind of sneaky card in the deck, but basically what you're doing is you're turning all your creatures, or your lands, I'm sorry, into 2/2 elementals with reach and indestructible and haste until end of turn, right? So usually what you're going to do with this, you're going to, it's a game ender. You're going to turn all your lands into 2/2s at the, and then you're gonna attack, and then hopefully you got a, got an Ashnod's Altar or something like that out there, and you just start sacrificing your own lands. It's to get the 3 damage, And it's not really something they can even stop, because even if they go to remove something in response, you can hold priority and just start stacking like crazy. All those triggers go on the stack. There's not much they can do to stop it. It's really almost uncounterable. So really good game ender. Explosive Vegetation, obviously just a ramp. This is Pilgrimage, more ramp. Bond of Flourishing, not truly a ramp card, but in this deck, that's what we're using it for. This is Triumph, more ramp, just throwing as much lands as we can on the battlefield as fast as we can and as many as we can in a turn. Adventurer's Impulse, same thing. Cultivate, same deal. Chandra's Ignition, another huge card, because usually what you're going to do is you're just going to target one of the elementals. They're all going to kill the other elementals. It's just going to cause a chain reaction, and then you're just going to start doming people. I mean, this card's crazy. I was actually shocked. I was going to pick a couple more of these up just because it's just a good removal spell in any creature deck. And, I remember when these things were 30 cents. I mean, they were worthless, and now I think they're like $20 or something. So it's just crazy to show you that, Magic Finance is real. I mean, like, you can take a garbage card, what used to be a garbage card like this, and then, 6 years, 7 years later, and it's, they're worth quite a bit of money. So this is Renewal, just more ramp there. The life gain's kind of a little nice, just added on. Same thing with Kamal's Druidic Vow, just more ramp. Grow from Ashes, more ramp. Animist Awakening, just an absolute powerhouse in there, because once you're usually going to hold on to this, even if you got it in your opening hand, you're going to hold on to this for a while till you got Omnath out and you can really deploy it, because just being able to pay X and look at all that, I mean, in this deck, you're going to, usually if you pay, let's say if you pay 8, right, and you look at the top 8 cards, you're almost guaranteed to get 4 lands. And 4 lands, 4/5/5 tokens is no joke, right? One of the best cards in the deck, Splendid Reclamation. Being able to return all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped is super crazy. Obviously, we're running Scape Shift. Being able to sacrifice, and what you're going to do in this deck every time is you're gonna sacrifice every single one of them. I don't run Valakut or anything like that in there. Maybe I should. I kind of tried to power the deck down a little bit, but Scape Shift's super strong. Usually what I do is when I play it, if I got, 9, 10 lands in play, I'm just going to sack them all and go get the rest of them, put them into play, and make a ton of tokens. This thing goes off, it's usually going to be game over. For somebody at least, probably 2 people. But usually when you get to that point, everybody just kind of durdles around. They're just waiting, anybody's scared to do anything, because you're just going to, sack them in response or whatever you're going to do to take somebody out. So, all right, so let's get to the creatures. Now, there's 2 ways you can go with this deck, right? You can go the elemental route, where everything that you're playing is an elemental, which I've seen that build. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the most common build. I chose not to do that as much. Because there are definitely some good elementals, but I didn't want to go just strictly elemental tribal, where if everything dies it pings you, because I just wanted more value out of my creatures. So Running Nissa, Vastwood Seer here. Really good in the deck, being able to search for that forest when she comes in. And then obviously her flip side is really good too, being able to look at those cards and put the lands directly into play when she does flip. You're not going to have any problem flipping her in this deck. So just a great card in here. Mina and Den Wildborn, really good. The fact that you can play an additional land on each of your turns is really good. So it allows you to, get around that one land a turn clause. And then being able to pay a green and a red to return the land you control to your target's hand, and then give a creature trample, and then be able to play that land again to be able to make a token. It's a really good effect in the deck, because you really, yeah, you got to pay 2 mana to return a land to your hand, but you get to play that land again. That's going to give you a 5/5. So think of it as pay a green, a green and a red to make a 5/5. You take that all day, and give a creature trample. It's super good. Elvish Rejuvenator, Hornet Nest, really just in there as a way to kind of keep people from attacking. If somebody puts down a Blightsteel Colossus or something crazy, yeah, it's got trample, you're going to take all that infect, or whatever it is, just something crazy, some big creature, you're going to get a lot of 1/1 Death Touch flyers. Usually when this thing's out, people don't attack you. Living Twister, same thing in there, just got 2 different modes. To be able to discard a land card is really good, to be able, because you can bring it back. Return a tap land you control to your owner's hand. That's kind of what it's on there for, so you can play that land again. We have multiple creatures that allow us to play multiple lands, and get lands out of the graveyard, so it's really good. Azusa, Lost but Seeking. Just play 2 additional lands on each of your turns. Card's really good. I'm glad to see it got reprinted, by the way, because that thing was getting ridiculous at one point. I think they were going for like $70, $80 a piece or something. Glad to see it get reprinted. Back down to earth on the $6, $7 range. So Gatecreeper Vine, just more ramp. Dragon Master Outcast, we're playing a ton of lands. So, having 6 or more lands at the beginning of our instep to put a 5/5 dragon in the play for 1 mana. Pretty good. We're going to hit that every time in this deck. Purphoros, obviously any kind of token strategy. If they're in red, they're running Purphoros. If they're not playing Purphoros as a commander and just like a goblin deck, token deck or something, the card's insane. The fact that it's indestructible, it's not a creature unless you get the devotion going, and the fact that it deals 2 damage to each opponent every time a creature enters the battlefield. This card's crazy. I don't know if it's been reprinted or not, but it needs to get reprinted soon if it hasn't, or it's going to spiral out of control in price. It already has at this point, but definitely would love to see a reprint. Anok Guide, just there to get more lands out. Just another creature to get lands. Greenwarden Marasa, just good to be able to, get stuff twice. And the fact I am running this over Eternal Witness just because of the fact that it is an elemental. So when it does die, it does trigger Omnath. Woodland Bellower, just there to get a couple of creatures out. One of the creatures that I usually go get with it, or one of the next 2, because you can get a 3 CMC or less. But this Dryad of the Ilzian Groves lets you play an additional land on each turn, and then lands, you control every basic land type. It doesn't matter in this deck, but being able to play an extra land does. Ramanop Excavator, it's another one of those cards I probably should have just bought a million of them when it came out, but it's basically Crucible Worlds that lets you play land cards from your graveyard. As far as I know, I think that's the only 2, right? Crucible Worlds, and this guy is the only 2 that let you get lands that, let you basically play lands from your graveyard without recurring them, with the instant or sorcery or something. Solemn Simulacrum, obviously just there to get that land, and then when he dies, we get to draw a card, so why not? Scourge of the Throne, really good in this deck, has Dethrone, so whenever we get attacked, we get another attack phase after that, as long as we attack someone that has the most life. So Sakura Tribuilder, just a classic, right? Play him on turn 2, somebody attacks, you block with him, in response, you sack him and you go get a land. He blocks for you, and then you just sack him in response and go get a land. If nobody attacks, and you just sack him and get a land. But either way, the card's crazy. It's been in a vintage cube since the day it was printed. It never goes out of style. Love me a Secure Tribuilder. Ancient Greenwarden. This is one of the other ones. I think this is the only other creature that lets you get play lands from your graveyard. But my God, he costs 6. I know if a land entering the battlefield causes a trigger ability of a permanent to trigger, permanent we control to trigger, it triggers an additional time. So yeah, it's super expensive. I'll be honest with you, most time I'd rather have a Omnath excavator, but it is nice to get double triggers when the landfall hits. Because this can really spiral out of control. So if people are dumb enough to let you have this on the battlefield at the same time as doubling season, because then you're basically going to get 3 tokens. You're going to get the trigger from this, and then you're going to get a trigger from doubling season. So it's really good. Magus of the Wheel, just kind of in there in case we need to draw some cards. I'm not running a ton of card drawing here, but I've always liked Magus of the Wheel just because it's a cheap, Wheel of Fortune that doesn't cost $300. And, being able to sack them, we do have several ways to give haste in here. So if we can sack them and then wheel, make everybody discard their hand and then, draw 7 cards. A lot of times that'll just hose people, man, because people got a handful of cards they don't want to give up, and they draw 7 cards, and it's like, I mean, it happens to me all the time in games. I have a handful of cards, and they make me discard, and then I don't draw any lands. And I discard my hand on turn 3. I'm drawing a new set of cards, and I don't draw any lands, and I'm just screwed. I'm out of the game. I got 3 land drops, and I don't draw lands for 3 turns. It goes like that sometimes. So the card can kind of hose people. It's not what it's really in there for. It's just there for card draw. But I just like wheel effects, so why not? Fertilid, more card draw. Morog, he's in here. I put him in here because, the extra attack phases, especially with the landfall. Though I will tell you, you got to kind of be careful with this because it doesn't play like it reads. So just remember, if you want to get those extra attack triggers, you need to do it on your second main phase. After attacks, not in your first main. So the play line would be attack with the Coom, play a fetch land, crack the fetch land, put the fetch land into play. Now you get 2 more attack triggers with the Coom. If you do it beforehand, you're only going to get 1. So it's just worded weird, but just be aware. You can always look at the rulings on it, but a lot of people end up playing this card wrong. But yeah, it's a great card, especially with landfall. If you want to be attacking and smashing face especially in a landfall deck, great card. And then the last card is Domri and Arcabolas. Yeah, creatures you control get +1/+0. It's not really what it's there for. It's really there for the the +1 ability. Add red or green. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. So if there is something that we have to stick, if we need to get those lands out, we need a Omnath excavator, or we need that Morog to hit, we can play this on a turn because we got so much mana. Activate it to add a green. So in actuality, it only costs us, or red, it only costs us 2 mana, right? To actually play to actually play Domri, because we're getting 1 back, and then we can play that other creature and make sure it doesn't get killed. You could always -2 it, though. I don't think I've ever done that. It's just basically there to keep it from uncounterable. All right. And then obviously we just have, lots of these guys floating around in this deck. So other than that, that's pretty much it. That's what you're going to do. You're going to make a ton of tokens in this deck. But anybody that has an Omnath deck that runs this commander will tell you that it usually gets taken out pretty quick. Over the years, Wizards just printed so many more ramp spells that are really good. I mean, I could have put Sylvan Scrying in here too. I mean, there's just, the list goes on and on. That you could almost run a creatureless Omnath deck and just run nothing but ramp and, maybe a couple of protection spells and lands, and just throw the rest lands in, and you could probably still win games. But yeah, just be aware that Omnath gets taken out quite a bit. Most people, especially if they played against it, they're not going to let the machine go off. So you have to be a little careful. Just make sure that, you've got, what I usually try to do is make sure I have enough mana to be able to cast Omnath twice. So I usually wait to cast him until I can cast him and then pay the commander tax if he gets removed on my next turn. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the deck. Have a great day.